6 seconds. That's how long I was told I was going to live. I count each second as they go by. I like to imagine I have another 6 in me. I'm really sure of anything these days. It's my first deployment in the Astrobillet Arms, you know that? I may not look like it, but it's true. The guys have even started calling me by my name around here. They've said I've lasted this long, might as well know what I'm called. I'm Eddard. Must know. Come from Thracian Primaris. Although nothing about my upbringing in the Hive was really noteworthy, my story could be told by another dumb bastard just like me on 1,000 other worlds. I joined the Guard because I thought it was better than living in the pisshole that was Hive Fabrics. Wanted to be like the saps on the posters. See the galaxy. What a fool I was. What did I know? I mean, sometimes maybe living in ignorance would have been better. Battlefleet Scarus was in orbit around Thracian for 3 weeks. When we finally received orders to assist in the retaking of some Emperor-forsaken agri-world, I was excited, thrilled to be finally doling out his will on the enemies of mankind. My mate Talon was excited. He didn't seem to understand that we'd probably never see Thracian again. Didn't seem to understand that he'd never see his ma again. But I wasn't going to be the guy to wipe the smug grin off his face, now was I? Talon and I trained hard while I made the 15-week trip. We were told the orcs had dug themselves in deep, that we were reinforcing the Astra Militarum presence planetside, and that this was going to be a war of attrition. I had no idea how long the retaking of this planet would take. They rattled off numbers, but I tuned out once I found out the 432nd would be one of the first to drop. It was going to be hard. We needed to help retake a deep network of trenches and bunkers that Imperial intelligence reported had fallen just a few days prior. Losses would be heavy, the average life expectancy of 6 seconds. To them it was a sacrifice the Emperor needed us to make. Talon nudged me, told me that with him at my side, our life expectancy had at least doubled, and that a lot could happen in 12 seconds versus 6. I mean, we knew what we signed up for, but it wasn't every day that I had to face my own mortality. When we arrived in system, as we made our way to the embarkation decks, I could feel the fury of the Void War happening outside the ship. I could feel the shake of the massive guns as they delivered the Emperor's will upon the Orc Mints. I remember gripping the strap of my lasgun and listening to the creaks and pops of the ship as the void shields were pummeled by alien fire. The whole deck smelled of oils and incense as the priest blessed us on our way. Talon punched my shoulder, although now looking back, I can't fully recall what he said. Something about hoping that the locals had a good drink down there? I don't know. Although, I just figured we'd be lucky if we got water for the next few days. I remember we loaded into the heavy lander with the rest of the men of the 432nd. I was almost taken aback by the sheer might of the armor we were taking with us. The fist of the Emperor would crush the Greenskins in one decisive victory, I thought. Whatever numbers they had told us must have been miscalculated. I voiced my enthusiasm to some of the veterans. Let's just say they weren't as optimistic as Tal and I. Saw it in the lander, and you could have cut the tension with a knife. It was silent, apart from the commissars calling out orders and reminding us of how we would remind the filthy Xenos of the superiority of humankind. The ship rumbled and groaned as the alien dogs pummeled the skies to prevent us from landing. I remember being so eager. Before I knew it, with a jolt, the doors fell. What I saw was hell. Yet it was hell that would have made lesser men cower in fear. But not the men of the 432nd Thracian Rifles. It was as if my battle brethren had shared the same disgust that I felt upon seeing what the orcs had done to this world. My commissar ordered us fixed bayonets. I gritted my teeth and heard my voice join the hundreds around me as we charged into the fray. My boots sloshed into the muddied soil as I followed the rest of the 432nd towards the trench line. The orcs saw us coming and opened fire. They somehow weren't aiming, but hitting their targets just the same, as if by sheer luck and chance, the bullets from their crude guns had hit us. I watched the guardsmen in front of me eviscerate into pink mist as an orc round found its place. I was shocked by the sudden incident, but I managed to keep my feet under me. I followed next to Talon as I watched another guardsman fall to my left to another alien weapon. I tried not to pay attention to the soldiers falling around me. I just counted to 6 in my head, over and over, feeling the average life expectancy that Command had given us, double and triple, as I ran. My courage almost faltered for a second. I could tell some of my fellow battle brethren felt the same as this mechanical blasphemy hobbled over the trench line in front of us. It jittered and spat as it moved, and it barely looked like it was going to stay together, and yet, by some will, it managed to hold. The front of it had this piggish face, and with a loud clash, I remember it charged into the guardsman a few meters in front of me. Its blade sawed men in half as I watched it lift one of my comrades into the air, crushing him in his grip. Some of the soldiers around me stopped and began to fire at it, while others still made way for the trenches. Regardless, I remember this thing's presence riled up the orcs around it because others ran out of the trenches charging at us. The dash of the trench line was getting messy as I followed Tao's lead, firing at the greenskins and trying to make our way to the trenches. I wanted to avoid this mechanical monstrosity, but I remember it getting closer. I thought for a moment that nothing could stop this orc contraption. I remember smelling the ozone as Tal and I ran past it, but before it could finish off the men around us, the machine staggered back as the round of a Lehman Russ had tore into it. The tank seemed to get the orcs' attention, and we were able to fight our way forward. I remember jumping into the trench. It nearly snuck up on me, surprisingly, due to the rage of the war zone going on around me. I dove into an unsuspecting greenskin, driving my bayonet into its ugly maw. I fired my lasgun into its head as I silenced its piggish screams. I looked to my right and nodded to Talon, who more or less did the same to one of the smaller creatures. I followed Talon as it had come to my attention that the good majority of our immediate squad was killed during the dash from the lander. We didn't have any time to think as more greenskins rushed our positions. We fired our lasguns, finding kill shots each time. Yet, when we killed one, another seemed to take its place. The orc menace was never ending. The guardsman behind me was hacked to bits by an orc chain axe. The poor bastard barely had enough time to react, but his foe quickly switched to me. I raised my lasgun in time to block the initial strike, and before the burly orc could even raise it for another swing, I managed to dig my bayonet right beneath its neck. Too bad that didn't stop the Xenos. It slammed me to the side of the trench, and I remember tasting blood. Yet before the orc could do the same to me as it had done to the previous guardsman, Talon, Emperor, bless him, managed to gun the beast down. We managed to continue the fight for what seemed like an eternity, but eventually, the 432nd had maintained a foothold in the southern point of the trench network. Tal and I rendezvoused with the remainder of our immediate squad and began to clear more trenches of the orc foe. We left the Imperial-held trench line at dawn, not getting much reprieve from the first clash with the orcs. Now, and this is where my memory is fuzzy, so please forgive me, but I'm not sure if it was because we were too exhausted from our fierce fight with the orcs, or what. We didn't hear this panting until it was too late. Tal heard it before I did. We were burning out orcs when all of a sudden, Tal yelled for me to get back. I turned, hearing this horrid panting, as I saw this red thing running right for us. It was too close. It had this device in its mouth, and before the bloke beside me could shoot it, it exploded. I don't really remember too much after that. Everything was dark for a while, and in that moment, I thought to myself, this was it. My 6 seconds. Kinda makes you wonder how many 6-second intervals had passed. How many expected lives I had lived in my first battle. And I remember waking up, Someone was pulling me out of the dirt. My head was ringing, but I was alive. Apparently, the Emperor believed that my duty was not quite done. I was helped over by the Medicaid. Apparently, another squad had called for one when they stumbled across us not long after the explosion. I was out of service for 2 weeks. But I've healed up just fine, apart from some scarring. It was 3 months ago. Still, we take the fight to the orcs. Talon, I found out, wasn't as lucky as I. For him, I mourn. And for him, I will make damn sure to find a good drink on this planet. Oh! Looks like we're moving out. Well, until then, friend. Here's to another 6 seconds.